Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4 Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4 Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
Welcome to this week's episode of the DW podcast. I am joined by the band Dictator, all the way from West Lothian. I feel like I should change the name of this podcast to be something to do with West Lothian because I've had everybody on it recently.
Oh,
aye. How are you getting on?
Good, thanks. Just been working today, but excited to be here.
Thanks for having us, man.
No, delighted to have you. Delighted. Tell us a wee bit about yourselves and for people that may be watching this or listening for the first time that have never heard of the band.
You slow face on that. So we're a band called Dictator. We're a four-piece from West Lothian, which seems to be a kind of melting pot of talent now. We're like our category after winning the SAMA recently is alternate rock. Right? I think we're more poppy. We're a bit like Gorillaz. Right? So that when we first started, Gorillaz was like our main influence, and we wanted to try and be a wee bit more poppy and do the stuff that wasn't as kind of indie as what we'd done before. So if you like Gorillaz, like a bit of Kasadie and you like that
Primal Scream kind of.
Primal Scream, genuinely we've got bongos in the songs. So just like that, we're wanting to try and make ourselves more poppy and challenge ourselves to be like that without feeling like we have to be or didn't have to be. So if you enjoy those bands, then hopefully you enjoy us.
How did you start? Because I feel as if West Lothian, as you touched on, there's a hotbed of talent, but like, what makes somebody from that area get into music? Because everybody's in it.
There's been a scene for years. Me personally, I can only go from my personal experience, and music's been a big thing in my life my whole life. My dad used to have one of the Casio keyboards when I was younger, and I'd sit and play it. There was one day he came in and I was playing it, and then he was like, "Right, enough," I was like playing it better than he was, and he was like, "What's going on here?" My dad was always into music. He was in a band, right, and it just seemed to be kind of that was a thing you'd done, right? Totally. And I'd done it, and then so. Kind of when we went to school, secondary school, especially early secondary school, there was already loads of bands. Like Zach's a couple of years older than me and Joe, and Alan's the same age as him. They were in a band when we were younger, and so then when they turned 16, they were getting to go and play all these venues. We could go and see them at 14 because it was over 14s. They were allowed to play because they were 16. So at 14, we were away seeing all these Battle of the Bands and like all these local venues, and it's like people doing Arctic Monkeys covers and stuff, and you're sitting going, I want to do that.
So what you're saying is me and Alan are probably one of your main inspirations.
No, we've seen yous. We like to swear on this podcast, by the way.
Say whatever you like.
No, I was just going to say, we've seen yous and yous were shite. And we thought, if they can do it, why have we not do it? Nah, it was...
what was the name of your band?
We were Japan 4, mate.
Oh, I remember Japan 4.
So we probably shared bills back in the days.
Aye. We Ross Coots putting on all the gigs.
Exactly. But we were, going back to that, we weren't very good. Like, we were too young. And we were handed some pretty good opportunities and just fucking blew them. Sorry for swearing. Because we were idiots. We thought living the rock and roll lifestyle was all it was about, and it was actually about writing good tunes. But we did eventually get there, but at that point it was too late, and we were like, we ended up sort of dissolving and moving on to other things.
I think that's really interesting what you say about this whole rock and roll lifestyle, because I remember playing gigs 10 years ago, and everybody turned up and was hammering the beers and the vodka and whatever else, and I feel now that when I go to gigs, the bands are a lot more sober.
Aye.
You know,
mate, we talked about this on the way through, man, and it is a big thing. And so we'll obviously talk about that later on, because we are, didn't treat it the same way we have previously. Used to get smashed, and then now I'm a bit like, you imagine you went to see a show, if it was any other show in any other industry, and you turned up there all wrecked. They're all wondering. You'd be like, are you kidding me on? Right. So I'm like, no, if we want to charge good money to people to come along and see a show, not just us getting wrecked and re-singing our songs terribly, which I didn't want to do, I'm like, we might as well kind of treat it professionally. But going back to that thing you were saying about when you're younger and you throw away the opportunities, I kind of feel like that. But then I also felt when I was younger, I had no idea what an opportunity was. So I thought, if you, they boys supported Glasvegas years ago, right? And it was that was a big opportunity. We never capitalised on it. But if we'd been given that opportunity back then, I probably would have just went, yes, I almost would have looked at it we're supporting Glasvegas now, so that must be us made it. I didn't know what making it was. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted to, do you stop at a certain point? I had no idea what I was actually chasing. I was just playing music. So it wasn't that we didn't make the most of the opportunities, we just had no clear intention of this is what we want to do. We want to try and make a career out of music or do whatever. So you never capitalised on opportunities or stuff.
I don't think it wasn't just the case that we didn't make the most of the opportunities. We burnt our bridges. We supported Glasvegas. We were steaming and stole the rider for them and everything. Like we were.
I never knew that. Stop telling them that you supported them.
We were 16 or something.
Are you now playing with Glasvegas since?
Aye.
Well, they'll be wanting that back.
Redemption.
There's that wee prick that took on the deal.
Exactly. Nah, but no, that's going back to that thing about kind of being a wee bit more sober and treating it differently. Like, see, I remember when you're younger, right, one of the things about riders, when folk are like, oh, I get like a big arsehole rider, like I want something served at 37 degrees and
totally.
that. I remember the first kind of defining point where I seen the person who has to do the riders try to get the riders, and they were like, oh, I've got, and I was like, I'm never doing that. Even if we become the most successful band in the world, I am never doing something just to be a dick to try and be funny, because I was like, that's no, we're all different, we're all folk, you know what I mean? And I'm like, it just totally changed my perception of it. And then when you start thinking like, why are we getting fucked up? We're shite. We're absolutely shite when we're fucked up. And what people, you practice when you're steaming. You're like, that's not how you get good. Like, you know what I mean? But it's just, it's a different mindset, man.
I think it's an age thing as well, though.
I think it probably is, man.
Because see, when you're that age, nobody's going to tell you that's not right.
You're never going to listen to them either.
No, exactly.
I know, and it's more fun at that age as well. Like, you didn't really see we were talking about on the way through here. This is at home, no, but we were basically like talking about like all our idols when we were younger. Like, I'm glad that like we weren't, if we were 18 and we'd made it, like you'd be sitting there going like doing a path that you didn't realise you were going down. But then now we've grown older, you look at the Libertines in that, and I'm like, mate, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, thank fuck, I never done, like, you know what I mean? Thank fuck, I never went down that path.
Totally.
But at the time, he was just like, don't get me wrong, Pete Duckett wasn't exactly an idol, but you're sitting there going, oh, they were doing what you wanted to do. We're getting fucked up, they were playing gigs every weekend, it was class, and like, now I'm looking at it going, that's absolutely not the take. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not wanting a piece of that action at all. I want to do it my way and I want to enjoy it.
I went and seen the Libertines a few times in Baby Shambles and they were terrible.
Aye, mate.
But you came away enjoying it. Strangely, do you know what I mean?
Because you were buzzing in it, it's an amazing event. But I mind reading about Julian Casablancas. Julian Casablancas was a genuine idol of mine. The Strokes were one of my like foundation bands that actually like inspire you to go away and play and stuff like that. I think everybody at that time as well. The Strokes were huge for me. I remember there was an interview with Julian Casablancas basically saying he was that fucked up the whole time throughout their biggest gigs that he can't remember it. And I was like,
that's terrible.
And I'm like, oh my God. So like, we think about capitalising on opportunities we had when we were 16, 17. They were alright opportunities, right? Can you imagine playing the biggest and most successful gigs of your life and then now getting to an age where he's maybe in his 40s going, oh fuck, I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't know what it's mental, man. I think, as you say, it comes through maturity, but also you're just looking at it and going, you've seen all these people who you idolised go through that. They're at the other end, some of them haven't made it, and you're going, thank fuck, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's,
I think that's part of the reason why Dictator are sort of where we are at the moment as well. Just our attitude is entirely different, like to where we were 5, even 3 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
boring bastards.
I say that, man, but like when I was younger, when I was playing bands, like I was saying before, our attitude was all totally different, man. And even then, I left that band, joined a group called the Phantoms, had some of my career highlights with them.
Yeah.
I was steaming all the time, mate. I look back at it again and I'm going, I made a fool of myself. I'm not as proud of those moments as what I should have been. Do you know what I mean? So I quit drinking like 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago, just as we were starting Dictator.
Brilliant.
And I feel like that's. I'm not going to put all the success into me. No stuff in. But I feel like that's.
He was your biggest influence, and it's the reason where you're just now.
But I feel like it's an important factor because like I actually focus on what we're doing now. As before I would show up to practice, just play my bits and whatever. Now I'm like, every spare moment I've got, I'm like, let's do something in the band. Let's see what we can do here. Let's contact this guy. Let's see if we can write a tune today or whatever. That's just like our mindsets are entirely different as to what it once were.
That's amazing. We're recording this on a Monday and I'm going to need to ask you a few questions as to how to chuck the drink because I was feeling slightly hungover earlier. I have to say. But no.
Give you right to the edge first, mate.
That's me.
How did you guys get together then? Were you pals at school?
We kind of like, we know so much pals at school, but we used to go and see Japan for, we used to support Japan for, and like we played loads of gigs together and we just knew each other. Then when Zach was saying he was with the Phantoms, so I kind of like, we had a band before called the Barrels, right, and we kind of started fizzling out. No, just never naturally came to an end. It just kind of we stopped really getting gigs, and then you lose a bit of interest. I lost a bit of interest in music. Genuinely, I was sitting there going, like, this didn't excite me. Like, I was sitting there going, like, I didn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I enjoyed making music. And I think it's because I still seen this like indie, like just writing indie songs, and I love indie. Like, it's not that I like it, but it's just like I did really enjoy that. I want to be playing, like, I'm good at playing the synth and that, and like, then wrong, every band says, oh, like, make it more synth based, and you're like, aye, alright.
It's a cliche,
it's fucking cool. But that was for me. I was like, I want to write songs with this, and I write all the songs and stuff and just create them. But I didn't want to feel like, right, I need to do a guitar part, I need to do a drum part, and then I need to do a bass part, and then, you know what I mean? I wanted to just see what happened, and like, it wasn't that we kind of naturally fell into that. But during the Phantoms, Zach knew I played the synth. I said, listen, we've got a few festivals coming up. Would you mind jumping in just to support for the keys, just to get a wee bit of flavour? I'm like, aye, that's fine. And genuinely, those jams were good. And like, that's when I first, like, the 808s and stuff like that were playing, and it comes through, and it was amazing. We played Transmit, and it was like phenomenal. And Alan was filling in on drums as well. And so then after the Phantoms, I didn't want to join the Phantoms because I just kind of, I wasn't creating the songs.
Sure.
So I just felt like I was like a cover band. It felt like a cover band for me because it wasn't my band.
They're telling you what to play.
And I was like, that's totally fine, but it's no my gig. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's fine. But then after that, you kind of left the Phantoms as well and got to that point where you were like, you kind of felt you were done, eh?
I'd kind of cut out music as well, but again, it goes back to having to quit drinking. I was in a great mental space at that point. So music, you probably know yourself, the industry is not the healthiest place if you're in that mindset. So I'd totally given up on music and thought that was me. Like, I'd played Transmit, I was like, that's me, I've done everything I could ever want to do, man. But then slowly but surely we started a wee jam group. Like, it wasn't meant to be in it, and never just a jam group. It just kind of evolved into Dictator is what it is at the moment.
Where do you jam? Because I'm sure you jam with a lot of other West Lothian bands, same rehearsal studios.
Well, we do now, eh? But
well, we used to rehearse at DSS, the Dead Sea Soul Studios.
Yeah.
We've moved away from there because we've got a semi-permanent space in
Livingston
Livingston now.
Good.
We're off it. But we used to rehearse at DSS. And we went to Pirate a few times in Edinburgh as well, which was also pretty good.
Aye.
But right now we've got our own place. It's brilliant.
We industrial unit, and just having everything plugged in and set up and we're good to go.
How often do you go in there then?
Oh, the now, mate, I can't. I close my eyes, I see the inside of it.
Do you feel like you're living in the place?
Like, literally, man. So I think we try and stick to 1 day a week, right? The now, because we've got a headline show at Stereo on the 18th of December, we are in like 3 or 4 times a week. It feels like we try and basically
twice a week.
With these boys it feels like 15 times. No, but genuinely it's about 2 or 3 now, but it's like 3-4 hours a pop, and it's a bit an extended thing, and it's only because whilst we were moving rooms we weren't really practicing because we're trying to get that room set up and buy equipment for it and stuff, so it felt like we'd lost ground. We supported a band called The Ratings, and we were shite. Like, we were terrible. Like, people probably came along and went, he's one of that bad, but for us, standard was set, we're like, can I do that? But it's because we were about 6 weeks out of practicing, because we'd just moved, and then we got offered like you got in Newcastle tomorrow, and we're like, aye, let's just do it. Normally they're the ones who are like, no, I'm not feeling comfortable, and I'm like, we'll just wing it. I was the one who was like, boys, we're definitely not ready for this, but we've done it. And then so for then on in, it's a good thing because it spurred us on for this gig coming up. We were like, we are not like give any chance that we're just going to be as well rehearsed as we possibly can, but it's difficult for obviously our other halves in that, so we're going in 2-3 times a week. Probably next week we're going to be rattling through it like every night.
I
think you need that though.
Aye.
I remember talking to Jack for the Snuts, and they were saying to us, it was when they played their first gig in King Tut's, their headline show, and they were saying, we're in there like 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week, and you know, they set that vision as to this is where we're going to get to, and they've done it.
See, when we used to have a permanent rehearsal space, and we shared the room with them, and they were legit, like they were in there every single night. We were there 1 night a week, and they were like, can we use it for this night? Are you just going to be in? Like, nah, we'll be in. They would be in. They would always be asking to use our nights if we only got to be there. They grafted for it, right? And I think to an extent I've seen that happening, and then seen their meteoric rise. And trying to instill that attitude in what we do just now.
Totally.
We can't do 5 nights a week.
No, I know, man.
But we try our best to get in there and work a little bit harder for it, because you've seen what the outcome can be if you go for it.
And you must see that. I mean, everybody that's coming out of your area that's doing really well, you need to be dedicated, don't you? It's like, I think a lot of the time there's people, and myself playing in bands, we've always been guilty of this. It's like, you play it being in a band. You know, you'll play a couple of gigs a year and you'll rehearse a couple of times, but if you really want to do it, it's like any job, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? If you want to be a football player, you need to practice all the time. It's not as if you're
I think that's one of the main things, man. Even talking about drinking and that, like, that kind of reference, we got interviewed a wee bit back, and I was like, it is like football players, like, we're no like football players, but like, they train. What you see on a Saturday or a Sunday isn't just them turning up and hoping for the best. Maybe it used to be back in the day, but now it's like so finite, and it's all about training and honing their best possible attributes, so that when they do go and play, they're actually giving themselves the best possible chance. And that's the same. There's one bad gig. I mean, you never ever want that. Even the ratings gig, like I was a bit annoyed, but then I was like, can I be annoyed because we didn't have a chance to practice? Yeah. But now I know for a fact if we got offered a gig tomorrow, we could take it because we're so well rehearsed. We've got 20-minute sets, 30-minute sets, an hour set if we want it, and it's like that's where I want to be all the time. So that, I mean, as you see, you're not playing and being in a band. If you get given a possible tour support with the Snuts or something like that, let's go. We can go the night. You know what I mean? And that's where we want to be. So
can we just take a wee moment to appreciate it as well, right? Because we do have to work hard, and we're realising as things start to move forward, we're going to have to work harder. Your Michael is just giving up his Celtic season ticket so that he can commit to
You're
more
joking?
No, honestly, that. Nah,
that's commitment, by the way. That's commitment.
Yeah, but I said, like, see, the thing is, man, like, I was like, this year's been a big year for me, man. I moved house, I've got engaged, we're planning a wedding.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Or commiserations, either or.
We were sitting there and we just got signed. We've so many things are happening, and it's amazing, but I can't keep up with fuck all. Like, I'm sitting there going, I'm stressed out in my box here, and I was like, it's because, see, like, the stress busting activities, like going to football, isn't stress busting for me now, because it's like my one day a week when I've got fuck all today. It's like on a Sunday and it's like we're playing Aberdeen 3 o'clock and I'm like, no, I can't. Like, you know, I was sitting there and I was like, I can't try and burn the candle at both ends here. Like, I play football, I play golf, I watch the football, and I'm like, see, for a while I didn't mind stuff like that taking a back seat because this is important and stuff's happening. Going back to that thing about opportunities, you didn't want to
miss them.
I'm sitting there going like, man, imagine we didn't practice because we were watching the football and we got offered a gig and we were shite, and then they were like, you don't want to come back. You know what I mean? It's just that way where,
listen, Celtic are still going to be there.
Well, but that's it, man. And like, see, in all honesty, I actually had that chat with Zach like at one point, and I was like, if Celtic were in the Champions League final, actually, no, I'm thinking about this.
Right, if Celtic were in the Champions League final, are you playing Transmit? What are you doing?
So that's the thing. Like, see, in all honesty, I would be picking Transmit. Because that's me, that's what
it's a tough one though, isn't it?
But I'd probably be streaming it on be sitting there going doing that. But it's that thing where, like, if you were to genuinely order them, what would you drop? And I'm like, I'd probably, like, Celtic are still going to be there, they're still, you know what I mean, they'll always be there. Totally. Big part of my life. But I'm just like, nah, this is more important now, and I didn't want to be like, I've got time with my missus and stuff like that is precious enough as it is, and if I'm going to be watching the football and that's a day where she's like, that's like 4 or 5 days a week this week you've not been with me, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I get it. So anyway, I've not given it up yet, man. It's next season, I think.
but I think the reason that you're doing this, right, is because recently, as you touched on there, you've just got signed, you've got big gigs coming up, you're winning awards, like, this is happening. Aye. You know, there's a bit of a buzz there, it's the right time, you need to commit to it.
Aye. I think that's what I'm feeling, and I actually kind of quite clear on what I'm after. I'm no like flip-flopping and saying like, like, I picked up golf the last year and a half, got to a decent play of 14 now, but I reckon I could get out to single figures if I gave it a go. I'm like, I'm no doing
He's confident now. He's confident.
No, but I'm sitting there.
Play football, play golf, brilliant singer. And see the synth, see my synth skills.
No, but I'm alright at golf, right? And I actually picked it up this year and I got decent at it. I played when I was younger and I was like, I could get to single figures next year. That goal has went right out the window, and I'm just like, you know what? Golf will still be there. I could be in my late 30s and do that, but see this stuff, as you say, it's happening. We're getting given opportunities and I'm still like, what the fuck is going on? But I know it's positive and I know I want to do it, so I'm like, I just hate to try and grab them and try and know that the stuff that's important, like, I mean, your family life and all that, that's going to always be important, so aye.
How did the signing stuff come about, record deal?
You seen us at one of those So Far Sounds?
Aye, these sessions, aye.
You seen us there, but it was ages ago. It took like 6 months before they ever actually approached us.
Right.
But that's where they'd seen us and we thought these were really good, and it wasn't just the performance. We were playing Sneaky Pete's a few weeks after it, so we went right out into the crowd and tried to come pick us much, but just having a laugh with all the crowds. Totally. You know what it's like, do you know what I mean? So they were like, we just liked how these were as well as your music. Then they started listening to us on podcasts, and eventually they approached us and they were like, look, we're going to be starting this label. We're looking for a band to sign. We think these are going to be the first guys we want to sign. But it took, how long did it take?
Mate, 6 months of negotiating. See, the day that we announced we were signed, right, everybody's like, you must be buzzing. I'm like, no, I'm fucking no. Like, I know, honestly, I'm just glad it's out there, but it was so weird, man. You're sitting there going like, fucking hell, boys, are we depressed? Because we're not as happy as everybody else, but it's because the honestly, gone back and forth. We had 3 separate lawyers looking at this thing. We're in negotiations with them almost every week, and it was just like back and forth, reading through all these pages here, and I'm like, this is mental. You know what I mean? And we have strict rules about like who we would be willing to work with, because we've been so lucky to see some of our pals get signed to major labels and do amazing things. We don't want that, because they kind of like the label could turn around tomorrow and say you boys are on tour. Yeah. We don't want that.
Totally.
We've gone our different way. We want to learn as much as we can so that we control as much as we can.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We'd rather get like an extra 10 years on everybody else, but then in 10 years' time you're controlling everything.
Yep.
So then you're the one who's deciding, right, we're going on tour for like these 3 months, but we're only doing X amount of weekends and stuff. But so when they approached us, they were that perfect label for us. Mm-hmm. They were independent, they were just starting up, and they were wanting to focus on one band to begin with. They wanted us to be involved in the process and stuff, and we were like, this is like, it was like ticking all the boxes.
It's a perfect way to sort of learn that side of the industry as well, because everyone was learning it together. And just to talk about the control stuff as well, we're called Dictator, right? And I always make the joke that this is because it's Michael's songwriting process and that, right? It is to an extent, but it kind of embodies our whole approach to how we want to write and release music as well. We do want to have like full creative control. We didn't want anyone else being able to turn around and say, oh, he's only working with this collaboration because they're on another label, or we don't think that that's the right move for you. It's like, if we want to do something, we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. That's it. Nobody else is going to stop us. Thankfully with Black Hole Records, they're very understanding in that, and they just want to see us do well and create good music.
And I think that's important, because you hear these horror stories, don't you?
Mate, that's honestly, it took us some convincing. We're just like, hold on a minute, user sound. You're offering us this deal, and it's exactly what we're after. You're exactly the right label. What's the catch? What is the catch here? And it was, honestly, it took ages, but again, that's what the negotiations were for, and came through in the end, and it was class. Like, I feel really lucky to be in this position. Actually, it is. It's crazy, and like just feel like a kind of extended part of the band, because they are like a management team and stuff, and like they help us out, and they're all learning as well. But we're all kind of helping each other, which is brilliant.
That's good, isn't it?
But it is mental, because when you're younger, mate, that's what you dream of getting. You dream of getting signed,
and you're no buzzing about it.
We weren't buzzing about it, and I'd rather no pretend than say that I was fucking buzzing. I was burst, and it was honestly like the back and forth, just making sure we were sound, and then like the pressure of, right, okay, now you are, because we're writing an EP at the time. It's like you're pretty much writing this EP for a contracted, like, you're going to be releasing. I mean, and you're sitting there going like, well, and we've not finished it yet. You know what I mean? So we're talking about it next year, and sorry for the big reveal, but but it's that thing where you're sitting there going, shit, this is all real. Yeah. This is all happening, man. We need to do this. Yeah. We need to do this, and you're like, oh my god, you're like, this is it. But then actually, when the dust settles, you go, that's class. Yeah. And it's just keeping your head throughout that time and being like, this is make the most of it. Let's enjoy it. So
we were talking about that in the drive through here, actually, just about trying to...
You should have recorded
the drive through.
Just trying to like...
Be like James Corden or something, carpool karaoke, get you to a tune halfway along.
Just trying to like appreciate all the stuff that is happening with us, because I'm really bad for, right, that's done, let's move on to the next thing, what are we working for next? Like, I don't ever take a moment to just sit and
enjoy it.
So we're talking about it on the way through, and just trying to like remember, like, I wrote a list of all the stuff that we've achieved just in this year, and it's not to like go and to be like, oh, I'm fucking amazing. It's just because it's like, right, we've been really busy. We've been living our own lives throughout the band life. Do you know what I mean? Bad things have been happening, good things have been happening, all different stuff.
Totally.
And you forget about all the stuff that you're working really hard towards and everything that you've achieved. Because I'm already sitting looking at next year and going, right boys, but we need to do this, and we need to make sure that we're available for that. And like, hold on a minute, just take a moment to yourself and just appreciate. Like, even we won the SAMA. I swear 2 days later I was like, I'm trying to book the tours and that for next year, and going, right, we're going here, we're going there, is everyone available? And I'm like, just take a breath, enjoy yourself.
I was buzzing. I was like, right, I'm going to be the most of this. So
tell us a bit about that then, because I seen the photos for the show, and it was best rock / alternative.
Aye. So first off, it came about totally out of the blue. We had said that we want to kind of like go for these awards and stuff like that, but it's no, like, every musician and stuff like that, it's not about accolades. We don't need the validation.
But you want it.
But it's class. I know, you're saying it going, it's class. So genuinely, we're at a different kind of journey to the rest of the bands who were put up. So like you had Memes, you had Spires, and you had Swim School. Now we'd kind of long time admirers. Like, so I hadn't heard the Memes before. Like
I actually know John really well from Motherwell.
So like I hadn't met, but again the music's amazing, and it was amazing to be alongside that. But Spires and Swim School were actually long time admirers of those both of those
Smashing
bands.
it as well.
They're doing amazing things, man. And so we're sitting there going. Also, they've got good teams behind them. Like I mean, because they're doing the right moves and stuff as well. So we're sitting going. The boys, they went to see Spires at King Tut's and stuff, and like Swim School. I knew the guy Billy in Swim School, and his sound is in it, man, and the rest of them are sound as well. So I'm sitting there going, right, we're up against these bands. The likelihood is we didn't think we were going to win. We just didn't see ourselves on the same level. The fact that we were even nominated, we were like,
that's a buzz in itself.
We were like, this is class. Like, and we were just, that's amazing. The only thing we said, and like credit to Zach, like we were like, right, we've been given this kind of opportunity. We've been nominated. The only kind of thing is let's no leave it to chance. Let's not just see what happens. If we want it, which we did, let's try and we'll send it to everybody we know and ask them to vote for us. Between the 4 years, we're like, we'll just send it to everybody we know, ask them to vote for us, because then see if we didn't win. Couldn't have done anything. They couldn't have done anything. They couldn't have done anything else. We just whatever. So literally for the 2 days, we all kind of split up. So Zach took the lead on this one, and he done phenomenal. But it was basically like we all split up when we were covering the socials, what we were doing, stories, content, pushing the link, sending it to people. All the background, we're sending it to every group chat we're in, every family member, like old teachers saying like, hey, vote, get the school to vote, do all this, and like
that's
Joe's
class.
mum's in the St Andrews in Livingston. She's getting everybody to vote, like the whole school, and all that. We were like getting the Wayne's phones, like get them voting. And like honestly, it's that. So I remember my missus had to go to A&E because she had a bad cough, and anyway, she's fine, she's good. But there was just a point at that night where Zach had just been basically spamming everybody who followed Dictator, saying, hiya, vote for us, hiya, vote for it. It was just, honestly, your wrist.
I'm sure I got a message.
You would know.
I'm sure I got a message.
Are you one of the people that unfollowed?
No, not at all. Not at all.
People had followed us, and I was like, but honestly, he just spammed, and he was like, basically like, sorry for the spam, just we just need to give it a chance and make sure we're there, and sent the link and said, please vote for us. And it got to the end of the 2 days, and every single one of us were like, we done everything within our grasp to do. So if we don't win it, it's fine, because we'll need to work out how to do better, but we couldn't have done any more. And so then on the actual SAMA itself, I didn't think I was going to make it, because I was stuck in Liverpool because of Storm Arwen. So I went to see Glass Animals on the Friday down in Liverpool, and on the Saturday morning, sitting there, and it's like, the trains started getting cancelled. Like Southampton fans couldn't get up to Liverpool, right? So I'm sitting there going like, thank God we didn't live in Southampton. And I was like, the guy was like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going up to Edinburgh. He's like, no chance. And I was like, our train's still running, mate. And he was like, fine, so paid. And then literally, I'm not joking, I beeped it, and it just went, train cancelled. And I was like, oh no. And then it was honestly, it was just like doof, 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 doof. And I was like, oh no. And so I'm staring at it going, right, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's fine. Be able to get home. I was like, we just need to get out of Liverpool, because Liverpool's not on the main line. Yep. So I was like, right, cool. So like the labels like sending us quotes for car rental hires and all that.
No
but
way.
The M62, that's the motorway, isn't it? That was totally backlogged because everybody was doing the same thing. So all the lorries were doing, and I was like, if I go that way, I'm probably not going to get home. Nobody can get down. So I'm sitting there going like, what do we do? So I ended up having to get a train to Wigan.
And were you all there? Was it just
me?
Just you, right?
So the three of them were like pushed in.
Because we thought he was going to make it, and then it got to a point where it was like, he got to all the way to Carlisle, right? He got all the way to
Preston.
Carlisle. Was it Preston?
Right.
Preston got, so I had to get to Wigan, got a train to Preston. I missed the train to Preston, and there was a train to Blackpool that stopped at Preston, got in there, and I was like, I'll get to Preston. And then there's a train leaving to Edinburgh, last train out to England, and I'm just like, right, fuck. 13:06 it's due to leave. 13:02 we're standing on a platform, no train, and it just changes. The wee ticker thing goes to Carlisle, and I'm like, that's no ideal, it's no Edinburgh. I'm like, fine. Then it just changed platform. So I'm like, right, so I had like family members on standby saying, come and get us for Carlisle. So like, that's fine. Goes to the other platform, and then basically 20 minutes later they said, sorry, there's a problem with the brakes, this train's cancelled. Next one's next one's at 3:05. So I'm like, so anyway, he goes out in Preston. Isn't a big fan of Preston, be honest with you. Probably not go back there. But,
I know that train station, it's grim at it.
Man, honestly, the whole place, man, I'm sorry if anyone's listening to Preston, but I just like the whole place, because I was raging. And so the two of me and my missus just sitting there, and I was like, me and Rebecca are sitting there going, like, what are we going to do? And it stopped being funny because they're not doing memes and stuff like that. Just sitting there going like, oh, well, I'll be home for the Samas and stuff. Honestly, see if they'd sent me one then, I'd chuck my phone away and be like, Samas, I'm coming. And I was like, so I was rated, man. And then eventually we get to the thing, train leaves Manchester, it's gone to Carlisle. And I just got a big yellow thing saying like, a big amber warning saying this train's full. And I was like, oh no. So we literally put ourselves on the platform like, let's just pray to God. Literally doors open right in front of us. And we just jumped on, got a seat, and then we eventually got to Carlisle. Got a lift. My brother-in-law drove down to Carlisle to get me in my car. I drove back home, dropped the two of them off, and then just basically got showered, changed straight to the Samas. Got to the Samas 2 minutes after it started. But honestly, man, I was just gone. Knackered. I was gone. I had no idea. So when they read out our name and that, we again weren't expecting it. But the boys had built it up in their head because I'm like, right, well, we better win this. We better win this and stuff. And I was like, if we didn't win it doesn't change anything.
I had it in our calendar collecting our Samas.
Did you? I love that. That's class.
So they built it up, and I was like, doesn't it change anything? We're still going to be on. So see when they did it, man, I was fucking shaking and everything. I had no idea what to say. I watched back what I said through videos, and I'm like, I was swearing and I was cursing like blind. I was like, why have I said all that? Like I had a wee kind of idea what I wanted to say. Never said any of that. I just went up and started fucking yes, fucking
It was hard, the adrenaline was flowing, man, because we weren't expecting it, even though we were trying to tell them we are going to get it, but we were like, we're probably not going to get it. And we found that when they read out our name, mate, I was shaking. I was nearly crying to be honest. Big Ben's the rapper, I don't know if you know Ben, he was with us and he's grabbed us, hugged us like that, and I was like crying into his arms and all that, man. And then like we were shouting, we were screaming, like yes, like we would just won a football match. Didn't even want to do it like that. To be honest, I was like, it's a bit crass to be honest. Kind of felt bad for the other night, but you know what I mean. We were buzzing. We were absolutely buzzing. Alan was up with the holding it above his head gum, and what was it when the dicks go up to lift the Samas. It was brilliant.
But it's a validation, isn't it? It's a validation that everything that you've been doing and all these hours in the practice room's paying off.
That is exactly it. And it's not even in the practice room as well as in behind the scenes as well. Like sending emails, trying to get promoters to talk to us, trying to get artists to support us, or for us to support other artists. There's like so much work that goes into the behind the scenes. It's not just writing the music, it's not just rehearsing the music, it's not just doing the gigs. Do you know what I mean? That's where the validation came for me, definitely. Do you know? And because we're from West Lothian, so you kind of maybe no, but we kind of feel like outsiders to an extent to the entire Scottish music industry, because you feel like until recently nobody really paid much attention to us. So when you're starting to win awards and stuff like that, you're going and you're seeing all your mates doing really well. You're seeing the cartoons opening up at the Barrowlands. You're seeing the Snuts selling at 3 nights at the Barrowlands. It's really cool to also be part of that West Lothian scene and showing everyone in that area that a career in creativity might be a possibility for people.
And I think that's really important because maybe I'm being harsh here, but I've always felt like the Glasgow music scene is very cliquey. You know, and I think now that you guys are getting that validation, there's other people from West Lothian getting that validation, it gives people out with the cities a hope and a chance.
Do you know? I don't know if that's necessarily the case either, but certainly for a time it did feel like that for me as well. But even that night collecting the Sama, just chatting to all the everyone couldn't have been nicer, and they all couldn't have been friendlier, and I think on the outside looking in it probably seems like that, but I think that if you're just open and you go to Glasgow, you talk to some bands, they're always going to be sounding.
That's it. Totally.
I don't know any absolutes like in that. But at the same time, one of the nicest things, and I think we say this at the start, is that being able to remove yourself from that is actually a really nice thing, because you don't get lost in it. You don't think you're something you know. You come back to West Lothian and
get put in your place.
Pretty much nobody gives a flying fuck who you are, and you're like, man, this is like okay, fair enough. And I much prefer that to like if we were in Glasgow and going out every night to like different gigs and people go, oh, you're the voice for Dictator and stuff like that, and you're like, aye, mate, some award-winning band. I mean, like, but you know, I can understand that when some people like you would get kind of sucked in and think you're class when you're really no, and you still have to work just as actually harder to move through to the next.
Maybe I'm being harsh again here, but I do feel like when you go back to a town in West Lothian or Lanarkshire or somewhere, you need to be a bit more thick-skinned. It's like what you say is like everybody in Glasgow is dead nice to each other, whereas you go back there and your pals be like, oh, is that you fucking one? Who do you think you are? Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. But
I had mates going, what's that mean? What's a Sama?
I know why.
Clue what was going on. I mean, they've never even came to see the band. It's like
it's because they're not in that Glasgow music scene bubble. But do you know?
That's one of the things I actually like reference to my my other half. You see, like, talk about Tim Burgess. I'm like, Tim Burgess is DJing in Firewater, the 18th, and like you're allowed in with tickets to our show for like after party. And she's like, that's class. And I'm like, is he? I was like, how class is that? She was like, who the fuck is Tim Burgess? and I'm going, actually, see, no, this is why I'm there, because I, like, you know what I mean? She's like, fuck is Tim Burgess? And I'm like, aye, alright, the band with Charlotte? And she's like, no idea. And I'm like, I know, but I'd rather that than be like, no way, that's Tim Burgess. And I'm like, I know what's going on.
You need to keep grounded.
Aye, 100%, man. I think that's like West Lothian. Just my pals, no idea what's going on. They don't care.
I think that's brilliant.
Oh.
What's coming up then? You've made your list of what you've done this year, but what's happening in the future? You've got stereo. You got another Sneaky Pete's coming up?
Sneaky Pete's in February. Before that, we're supporting Glasvegas, SWG3.
Brilliant.
We do have, so I'm trying to put some tours together. One down south, one hopefully like Highlands and Islands.
Amazing.
That's not confirmed. That is confirmed yet, but I'm trying to get some dates fixed.
That's amazing.
And then we're going to be releasing the. I think you've already spoken about this, so I can speak about it. The EP. We're going to be releasing an EP next.
You're the guy I normally ask if we can speak about it. So if you say we can, no. The main thing, that's like thing. Touring next year, and like to be honest with you, man, we probably would have released an EP well before now, but the pandemic obviously, like, sorry to mention it, but I mean it's one of those things where it put play to a lot of those ideas where we're like, for us we're just, let's just keep pumping out singles, but no like just churning them out, but it was like, let's actually make a concentrated effort. We could only digitally release music, so we might as well try and stretch it out and try and learn what we can by doing as many releases as we could without gigs. Whereas an EP, like, you can go tour it, you can go do whatever, and so now we're finally at a point where I'm thinking, aye, that's fine, but the EP is taking on a different kind of meaning to us now, because now it's like these songs that we've released up until this point is like trying to find a sound for us, right? To like actually hone in and say, what do we want to sound like? What do we want our work to kind of feel or sound like and stuff like that? And now next year, hopefully, let's say if we get it completed and it gets out and we can actually get everything underway, it'll be to present right, here's Dictator as we see it.
Yep.
And what do you think? And I'm quite looking forward to that. And hopefully that means we can go on tour. We can, we can tour it up and down and we'll see what happens. Like kind of weird venues and stuff, but it'll be class. I think that next year it's EP and touring as our main goals.
Who are you recording with? Because you previously recorded with Adam Warrington for Youngblood, didn't you?
Aye.
Or did he produce one of your songs?
He came on as a producer for Mirror. We, all the songs that we've released up until this point were recorded partly with Mark Morrow. Based in Edinburgh. He's brilliant. But we'd take some of those songs and we sat on them for so long that we ended up listening back and going, actually we can do that a wee bit better. So we sort of dissected them. We brought someone like Adam, and we also worked with a DJ called Liam Dock, who just sort of put their own spin on it, helped us just fine tune some of those songs. Yep. But now the EP, we've moved on. We're working with 7 West Studios in Glasgow, who have been just absolutely amazing. They just totally get exactly what we're aiming for.
That's class.
I can't wait to get the EP out, to be honest. And just
First day we done that with 7 West, so it's Jamie Holmes and Johnny Madden, right? Johnny Madden's one of the producers, the Baby Strange. It's amazing, sounds fuck, the two of them. And first day I turns up with one of the songs that we were going to release, the title track of the EP, like a fucking 2 pages of notes, like, you hate it, change this, change that, change this. And they were like...
You said that to them after you'd recorded?
No,
they said it to you?
Because we sent them a rough demo. We went in, this is one of the first ones we went in. Zach likes to be really prepared when we go into the studio, like leave nothing to chance, but then also leave it to chance a wee bit. Whereas I'm a lot more loose, because I kind of think to myself that, like, if I'm in that environment, I normally do well, as in, like, you know what I mean, like if they say that you hate to do this, it forces me to do it. So like there's one when you said, oh, let's write a song, like, because we had like an extra half a day, like, can we use that grand piano? It's like, aye, Michael will write a song for it. This is like the night before, and I'm like,
no way.
What? And I'm like, right, okay. So I was like, fine. So I went home that night and I had to write a song. So I wrote a song, and then the next thing I did, I was like, what do you think? And they were like, class, sound, done. And I'm like, right, I wouldn't have done that.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's not just like he's pulled it out of thin air. He's obviously thought about it, to be honest. He's not letting on the full truth there.
You know that piano was there.
I knew I had nothing, and I was like, right, cool, but on a half day it's fine. But it was just like, it was good because it wasn't like them changing the songs. It was just like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I'm like, oh, we could do that, could do that. I'm like, aye, let's double down on that bit. Let's do this. That could do with maybe a wee extra lyric and a melody. You just do that. You've got until about 6 o'clock, and I'm like, fuck, right, okay, I need to go and find something that rhymes for this. And I'm sitting, so the whole day I'm kind of hashing out lyrics and stuff while they're recording their parts, and it's phenomenal. It's just a different experience, and like that's one of the things we want to do, is we want to keep working with more and more people. And it's not that we don't think that they're class, it was an amazing experience working with them. We're like, there's a whole world out there of people who kind of have different views and opinions, and I'm not precious about it. As the name goes, I write all the songs, but I go in there and I'm like, rip it to bits. I want to come out of this with something cool and that I enjoy, and I'm like, wow, it's a wee bit different. I didn't care about, you know what I mean, as long as the song kind of remains true to what it means, I'm fine.
I think that speaks volumes though, because a lot of people wouldn't let their ego aside.
Mate, I know.
You know, they don't know I've wrote it the way I'm.
Some folk are so weird about it. Like, they're just like, no, like, it's this, it's that, and it's this. And I'm like, but even if you back yourself as a songwriter, I'm still like, these guys are like wizards with like the tools that they use in their digital. And I'm like, go and just make it sound weird. Like, I'm not saying like that, just make it sound fucking weird. And then they do stuff and you're like, that's too weird, could you bring it back a bit? And then you end up getting something really cool. And I'm like, and it changes the song, and they change the structure, and I'm like, needs a bigger chorus, needs a this. That's normally the one I get, like, you know. And it's like, but I'm sitting there going, cool. If enough people tell me, I'm not just going to be like, no, I'm not going to back down here because I think I know better. Cool, I'll go away and challenge myself and see if I can get better. I'd much rather that. Tell
me about your songwriting process, because I love this video that you put out. I seen it on your Instagram, walking down Candlemaker's Row, talking about, you know, I've wrote this song about this street, and there's a fictional character based on this shop, and you know, we mentioned Paiute, and we got. How do you come up with stuff like that?
I have no idea. Like, honestly, see, half the time I'm like, what was I doing? Obviously, I had a lot of time on my hands when that was happening, but genuinely, so Candlemaker Row. So normally I write the kind of the song without the melody and lyrics, because what I'd normally do is we play a song and then I kind of sing along with it at practice, and just till I find the right kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, some songs I'm just done. Here we are, this is the song, we're good to go. But I never go out with the intention of I'm going to make it sound like this, or I'm going to, like with the Candlemaker Row one. I just remember when we wrote that song, I was wearing the Paiute jumper with Candlemaker Row, and I was like, I'd love the idea to put Candlemaker Row in a song. And then we ended up writing a song around that because it sounded quite kind of eerie, and I was like, this is what to me Candlemaker Row sounds like, if that's possible. And I'm like, and then so when we decided to call it Candlemaker Row, I was like, well, why don't I, from a lyric perspective, why don't I try and do justice to Candlemaker Row? And I went away and researched it and just kind of read up on Candlemaker Row, what it was and where it came from, what the history of Candlemaker Row was, all the shops that were there at the time. And I was like, I'm going to turn them into lyrics and parts of the song. I just really got interested in it, and I was like, this is quite cool because it has a hidden meaning. I love when folk do that.
Yeah, and I was fascinated when I watched the video. I was like, this is fucking amazing.
But like, so I love when folk do that and spend that much time on it because they care about it. And I was like, but I've got the option to be that person who cares about it. Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, I actually want to do justice to Candlemaker Row. But other songs, it's just like, it could be anything. It could be my dog. It could be, like, you know what I mean? It's just, as long as, for me, it's always try to kind of like make it as real life as possible. I don't think I ever have a sit down and go, this is what I want it to sound like, or this is what I want it to be about. When I get a rough theme of a song, like Anthem for a Doomed Youth, I watched the news and there was a thing about there's been a stabbing, and they were basically saying that like it was like the person's fault and stuff, and it was like self-defence or whatever. And I was just like, this is the problem, is that the government was like kind of saying, but they weren't actually listening to anything. It just really irritated me, and I was like, nah. So the theme of that song was kind of about that, Anthem for a Doomed Youth. And then I wrote the song around that theme. Mm-hmm. And I think I kind of do that with songs as I go, because I normally come and say, this is roughly what it's about. Mm-hmm. Like, I normally have that, and then once I roughly know what it's about, not that it's always telling a story or anything, I'll work backwards from there, and the lyrics kind of sit into that, and I go like, this is what I wanted to say, and have a meaning, and I didn't want to just write random, like...
And that probably helps you guys as well, because you know how he's wanting it to sound, or you know the theme that he's going for, maybe?
Aye, definitely, especially the way I play guitar is, it's very soundscapey. I don't, like when I was younger I used to play loads of scales and thought it was rock and roll. I usually use a lot of pedals and try and create a lot of the atmosphere with it.
That's
so
amazing.
If Michael was like, right, this is an eerie song about Candlemaker Row, then I'm
you
not going to play much,
to
I'm just going to try and space it out a wee bit. I think it's probably part of getting older, but you start to learn to use space better musically.
Totally.
So like silence sometimes says more than playing a million notes. You know what I mean?
Try and tell that to somebody in their first band, and they want the lead solo or something.
No, I know, but it's nice, and like even some of the like hide and seek. The thing about that is that was like again like a fictional like breakup song. I've been in a relationship for years and the issues, and I'm like, you know what I mean? But
try telling that to Rebecca.
But that's the thing exactly. And she's like, but then Moonlight was the opposite of that. Moonlight, because together they would have been like a little kind of 2-track EP. Moonlight wasn't. I was like, well, this is about you. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, so like that's like, whereas that other one wasn't. It was just that I would imagine, well, what would happen if, you know what I mean?
Tell them the truth about how you wrote it.
What did I do?
Got to getting steaming sitting in your pants.
See, the thing is, I feel so bad because a lot of people emotionally connect with that song, right? And they do, and it's a beautiful, like, I blow my own trumpet, but it's a beautiful song, and I really love singing it, and it's like, it's emotional, really emotional, and I'm like,
the messages we get for that song, people, and it's weird, and it's quite heavy sometimes because you think you almost feel like a certain responsibility with people listening, like, just what this song means to them, you're like,
I love that. I think that's
it's amazing, man. But I was watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in the background, fucking writing this tune, going, and I'm like, right, cool. Where are you? Like, there it is. And I'm like, that sounds class. And then moving on to the next bit, then whatever. And like, I paused it. I remember Danny DeVito's face on the screen, and I'm belting out like the main part of that song, just writing. I'm like, cool, done. Literally arrived in Spain at like midnight by 2 a.m. Full song, done. Sent it to them and went, right boys, he's that. And then I never touched the MacBook for the rest of the time I was there. It was great. I was like, done, song done. I'm over
That's
here.
amazing.
Right? But
what to him means loads to
but it did mean, I mean, it did mean something, because again I was over there by myself, and I was like, it was that thing where I was like, right, I'm going to tap into that and be.
Did
like,
you go
right,
there deliberately or just specifically to write songs?
I can't mind. I think I had a gap between.
I kept telling, and you were going there, and I kept saying,
I was going to bring.
Better write something.
You always said write a banger, but like, it was that thing where I was in between jobs, and I'd basically been offered a new job, and my work had said, well, your notice, you don't have to work the full notice. So I went, brilliant, I'm going to capitalise on that, and I just went over and just kind of, I was like, I'll go and write some songs. So I'll see what happens. I went over for like a week or something, and my dad came out the second week. But I did kind of go over there with that in mind. But I just thought, right, okay, well, I'm over here by myself, and it was that kind of the loneliness of like facing it, and I was just like, we hadn't even had an argument or anything. Like, I just was like, I'm going to tap into that and imagine and see what kind of that stirs up in me, and it did. And so it's not that I didn't mean any of it. I did, and it's a really emotional song. Even when I sing it now, I really get into it, and I'm like, but what happens with these songs is you pour all that into it, then you're done. Like, I'm just like, cool. But then people are saying, like, asking me, they're like, is this like, this means a lot about someone I lost? And I'm like, fuck, I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't even thought of that song could mean that to someone, but it does. Yep. And I think that's a like beautiful thing about it, is that half the time what I think the meaning of the song is, for what someone who hears it for the first time is going through their own shit, they hear it and go, this must be about that. And I'm like, it wasn't, but it is. It is about that, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm always like, it 100% is about that, because it's the same kind of
whatever
emotion.
it means to that person at that time, isn't it?
And it's so, and for me, that's like, talk about validation and stuff, but that is a phenomenal feeling, to kind of feel that someone's kind of, I don't know, like someone said, oh, like, I lost someone a while ago and stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, I'm really glad that made you kind of feel like that. It's good to feel like, it's good to feel shit sometimes and stir that emotion, because you can be emotional. It's good to get it out, you know.
I think the biggest compliment that anyone can pay you with your music is to find some sort of genuine emotional connection with somebody who really feels it. Then that's all you could ever really want. Like, forget awards, forget selling out gigs and all of that. Like, if one person just comes in and says that song really means a lot to me, that's it. Like,
it's amazing.
Mission accomplished.
That's class, man.
So you've got this drive. Where do you see yourself this time next year? If we had to do this podcast next December, what do you want to have happened? What do you think will happen?
Right.
And I know you're the man to answer this.
So the thing is, it's hard because we don't. It's almost like we're ambitious without being ambitious. Because when we started Dictator, we just wanted to make music that we really were proud of. That was it. We didn't want to be selling out venues, but now we are selling out venues. So we're like, well, next year let's sell out a bigger venue. Yeah. So we did.
Because Stereo's sold out already, isn't it?
Yeah. Sold out months ago, I think, which is metal.
That's a big venue.
You wouldn't believe that, by the way. I'm sitting there going, we'll sell it. And I'm like, no, they won't.
Because we had broadcast booking, and I'm like, we're no good, but that's it. If we sell a broadcast, that's it. But then we sold it out, and we had loads of time. We're like, let's
upgrade the venue.
And then that sold out even quicker than the first sort of broadcast gig did. So we just keep moving the goalposts, I guess. But
good.
We're looking at a much bigger venue for next year. A couple of venues, different cities this time. Obviously, we want to do some touring. We've been to Newcastle a couple of times, but other than that, we've not really managed to get to the Central Belt. We know we've got fans like down south especially, so we want to go and get it to LRM so they can come and see us. We're going to release the EP. We've got ambitions for the EP. We obviously, ultimately, like we were just saying, as long as it resonates with our fans, that's brilliant.
That's the main thing.
But we're going to be releasing it on vinyl. We want it to be more than that. We were hoping that if we can sell enough of the vinyls in the first week, you might hit the vinyl charts and stuff like that. So little things like that.
We want to chat with the EP, is what you mean.
We want to chat with the EP. I'm just
And you
trying
will.
But that's what we want to do, mate. That's genuinely we're looking at now. We're kind of going like, how do we do that? And that's like, I mean, that's like a realistic goal. We say we're no ambitious, you know, but we're sitting there going like, we need to be realistic with what we'd love to chat with the EP. That's our like goal for next year.
It would be really something cool and special. You know what I mean? It's no for our egos or anything like that. It's just to say, right, cool, we're working like mad, and it just shows you. It's just like a marker, almost.
It's that validation again, isn't it? It's like this is the next step.
Aye.
We're ticking those boxes.
That's exactly it, man. So that's for next year, and then the following year. Well, so a couple of years ago, me and Michael wrote down like a list of our goals and what we think we could do, and we were going through every year. Like, this is where we'll be.
That's brilliant.
So 2023 is the year that we quit our jobs, right?
So
this is the year we quit our 9 to
it's like a
5s.
dream board, right? Just
I hope your
before-
boss
just
doesn't
before-
listen.
But that's what we'd put, and we were sitting there and we're like, right, and I'm not joking, man. Like it was something like it's like Q4 2022. We just put like accolade back then. Just put accolade. And
Did you really?
Aye, mate. And we won this awards, and we were like, this is
Sell like everything.
right. And we were like, this is creepy.
Do you believe in that kind of like manifestation stuff?
My view, so like we talk about manifesting, but then I'm like, also when you say you're gonna like do something like chart with the EP, you can't. That's not just it.
You do something with it.
You need to go and like, so it's like with this whole manifest thing, I kind of didn't believe it. You did. You say like I'm going to make £1 million tomorrow.
You don't just go outside and speak it in the sky.
That
doesn't happen. It actually happens over time with concentrated effort, but remaining it as an objective and a goal.
Yeah.
And that's where I see, like, so for instance, if we say we want to do that, then cool. What do we then work backwards to do? What do we have to do? One of our main goals as a band, mate, is like, we were looking at saying that if we were to go on tour for 30 days between 1,000 and 2,000 capacity venues, right? You're talking between 15, 20 quid a ticket. You could actually make a sustainable career in music that way, money-wise.
Yeah.
So we're like, that's a daft, sucks the fun right out of music goal, but that's how we can be full-time musicians. How do we get to the point where we could sell out 30 days on 1,000 capacity venues at that price point? That is a musician's goal. But for us, we're like, that's what we would need to do to quit jobs, to actually go full-time musician and do whatever.
That's a clever way to look at it, that musicians don't tend to do.
But we're sitting there going like, that's no a thing that like we want to be like, that's a goal. But then we're like, but if we want to pursue music full-time, that kind of has to be the goal.
Yep.
We want control over that. We don't want to rely on a management team, but we might soon need one, but like because of the amount of shit that's happening. But the label we've got, we want to control all this. We don't want to be told, by the way, you're going on tour tomorrow. We'll decide when we go on tour. So we need to learn how to do that. Yeah. And I'm like, and that needs to become our goal to decide what to do. And when you start saying stuff like that, it's not that you're manifesting it. We now have to look at the actual realisation of like, well, what do we need to do to get to that point? How do you expand your... So, I mean, it's quite boring. I hate because the younger me...
Because the amount of bands that I've spoke to, and none of them say that. And that's the way that people should be thinking. Ultimately, if you're in any job and you want to do it full time, that's the way you need to do it. If you've got rent to pay, you know, if you've got family, like you need to think of things like that.
And like it's so mad though, because like you almost didn't want to say it. You didn't want to say it because like younger me, being a musician, is like, nah man, just want to fucking...
I didn't like to put it in a public podcast, but I didn't mean speaking it within a range of...
But I actually think people watching this or listening to this will really appreciate you being perfectly honest. Folks see that and think, I can get behind that.
Aye. It's funny because you go back to the dream board, and a couple of those things was like, oh, we wanted to have a management team, we wanted to have an agent. We don't have them, but we are them. We've became that. That's exactly what we do, and we've realised don't really need it. We don't need an agent for sure, because we can book gigs ourselves, we can book venues ourselves. We don't need a promoter because we sell the tickets anyway. Nobody else is doing it for us. Might, as we say, things are getting really busy. We might eventually need a management team, but right now we've got it under control. Do you know what I mean? And bands out there, there's lots of them that are doing that by themselves anyway. It's possible, it's entirely possible, man.
I spoke to the guy Stuart from the band Rest. You heard?
Aye, of course, man.
And they're the exact same. He's like, we're booking all our shows ourselves. We've not got an agent there. Because they want that control, but also because then you're not giving a percentage to somebody else as well, isn't
exactly,
it? You know?
Man. And
they're smashing it. You know, it's
exactly.
That's exactly how I feel, and that's why I actually like, because I was thinking to say that. I'm glad I did, because I'm like, that's genuinely like what we're looking at. 2023. We don't just say we'll quit our jobs and become full-time musicians. We have thought about what we need to do to sustain being musicians, and we're like, we're no looking at it like daft wee laddies anywhere. We are actually trying to be like professional musicians. What would a professional do? Well, they would look at it like that. So let's look at it like that, and then we'll figure it out.
And when you put that on the table and put all your cards there, your fans and the people that are listening to you get that, so they'll buy the tickets.
Aye.
They'll buy
50 quid for Sneaky Pete's. Come on, get the money.
They'll buy the vinyls.
Exactly,
do you know what I mean?
I know
Like,
exactly. Aye.
if you set the targets and you've got a group of people there that are buying it what you're doing just now,
Aye.
they're going to support that. Whereas if they don't know what the vision and the goals are,
Aye.
how can they get behind it as well?
But then we have to remain true to the music as well. That's like that's always the main goal. But it's like, well, if we want to actually produce the best music we possibly can, we need to support it with the stuff that's no as fun. Because then as soon as you get the go ahead, if we suddenly done that in 2023, we cut our jobs and we're actually full-time musicians, imagine the amount of bands you could work with. You can go and produce, you can get, I'm like, mate, that sounds amazing. I've always
you would create would totally
aye, you know what I mean?
So much more time to
practicing
write
during the
and
day,
work.
you'd be done by
Exactly.
5 o'clock and be like, right boys, we'll see you tomorrow, you know what I mean? Go and live a life again. You know,
Exactly.
Aye, so anyway mate, in 2022, big year, hopefully we get touring, release an EP, hopefully chat with it, and then we'll see what happens for there.
That's it. Oh, it's festivals in there. Hopefully we'll get some festivals. Any festival bookers are
I know,
Absolutely.
man. That's
You'd
it.
like to think now that you'll be on track for Transmit or something along those lines.
You never know. Depends what happens at the start of next year and stuff. And even like the Glasvegas support, we're supporting Glasvegas and SWG3. Buzzing about that. Like, buzzing about it, man. I used to have a Glasvegas poster in my bedroom when it was first released, like the album. And like, so see, like, we found out that...
I can't wait till he's turned up and he remembers him.
He's out. You're getting billed for the rider,
I
exactly.
remember Andy Gee was there, man. I remember going into the fridge, just lifting at the crate of tennis, like, she's them guys. 16-year-old wee fanny, man. Still, got a chance at redemption now, man. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
And on a big bloody stage day.
I know, man.
That's a
It's huge.
brilliant hall, man.
I don't think I've been to see anybody there.
It's huge. It's such a big space, big warehouse.
Looking
Eh?
forward to it, man. Can't wait.
Listen, I've absolutely loved talking to you. Thanks so much for coming through. And
At all, man. It's been a pleasure.
where can people check you out?
I know.
So, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, obviously Spotify, give us a follow, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're going to have loads more video content coming out in the next few months, so definitely hit that subscribe button for us. Where else?
So I know, just follow us on
What's the
Instagram
handles? I can't
at
remember.
Dictator Band, Dictator_band on Twitter, Dictator on Facebook. You'll find us there. You'll see us. You'll link it all here as well in the video and the podcast.
They might be finding some other dictators that they're not.
I know, mate. Honestly, not that. I know we're overdue a dick war on Instagram. It used to be every couple of hundred followers, I'd follow a new dictator. On
I've seen you only follow 3 people, isn't it? Is it
3 dictators?
Gaddafi?
Gaddafi and
Mugabe, Kim Jong-un.
Came into practice one day. He's followed someone and he's asked for it'd be funny if we followed the dictator every 100 followers, and I was like, I can get behind that. But
That's
we're all
hilarious,
overdue,
man.
I know. Aye, so if you follow us on Instagram, don't be offended if we don't follow you back. We will at some point follow you back, but right now we're just got one more dick war in us and then we'll be done.
It doesn't sound like you follow people, you lead the way, mate.
That's exactly it, man. I know.
Listen, thanks to everyone who has listened to this episode of the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please go back and listen to some previous episodes. Cheers.